Hi, Rock Antenne listeners. This is Yuffie Frick from Rock Antenne, and right now with me is Jimmy Eat World.
Hello.
Jim and Zach. Hi, nice to have you here.
How's it going? Good to be here.
You're here in our garden, beautiful right now. How do you feel?
It's very nice to be outside. It's still super hot in Arizona, and you can't really sit outside without melting.
So you're kind of used to it.
Yeah, we're enjoying it.
Okay, so you're gonna be on stage later on in Munich tonight in the Ampere Club. How do you guys feel as a band right now? Is it good to be back on track with a new album and everything?
It feels great. We wrapped up recording our newest album. It's called Integrity Blues in April. So we've been sitting on this material for a while now, and it's the first chance we have to get to play some of the stuff. And it's exciting. It's an exciting time for the band.
What kind of feedback do you get so far? How's it feeling? How's the vibe on stage? And
it's good. We're not playing so many new songs yet because the album isn't out. And, you know, as a fan, it's nice to go, like, you want to hear some new songs, but you also want to hear, like, what you want to hear.
Yeah.
But the feedback has been really nice. People seem to be responding to the material, like, as well as anyone could, you know. I think it's great.
I mean, you got great fans anyway, so.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, we have.
That's my feeling, what I know and seen and heard.
Yeah, we have the best fans.
I hope I pronounce his name right. You've been in the studio with the producer Justin Meldon Johnson. Do I pronounce that right?
Totally fine.
Okay. So how was working with him actually on that album?
It was you know, I think the reason you bring in an outside producer is to have the feedback that you wouldn't have gotten on your own. Like us four as a group, we've been playing together for over 20 years now, and we know each other very well, and you know, we know our strengths, and you know, Justin was a person who helped us maybe get outside of ourselves and helped us to approach songwriting and recording in a way that maybe is different than we're used to. Like when we're working on something, we want to feel a certain way, and we'll just do what we know how to do to get it there. But is that because we're familiar with each other and we just, you know, it's easy, or is there a better way to do it? And we just wouldn't, you know, push ourselves to find that. And Justin is a guy who would push us in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, because sometimes a producer is good to just, you know, try to give a new approach to work, to creativity.
Yeah. Everyone works differently, and it's fascinating to have the opportunity to work with different producers over our career playing music. You know, you learn something every time you make a record.
How was it for the drums?
It was great. You know, Justin, even though he's not a drummer, he's typically a bass player, but you know, it was great making a record with him because he, you know, the rhythm is really important and it sort of establishes the energy of the song, and he's really aware of that, and you know, he's just a world-class musician and someone who we learned a lot from, and yeah, I mean, and you know, the engineers that he hired and everything that he sort of did to help shape the sound of the record was awesome. Like I feel like this is our best sounding record we've ever done. So, and I think he's a big reason, because he's the one he picked the studios that we went to. He picked, you know, the engineer who was going to be recording and all of that stuff. So he had a huge impact.
So, and he just made you feel safe and.
Yeah, the good thing about Justin is that, like, producers have to be very well rounded. You know, they have to be able to, like, challenge you, but also be supportive and not be too adversarial. And he's just, like, kind of understands that. You know, he's also an artist himself, so he knows what it's like to be in a band and make a record. And you know, his producer skills are very well rounded because he's good at sort of the subtleties of, you know, pushing the band, but also encouraging and supportive.
So, Jim, you've said you've only tried out a few songs so far on stage, but what can we actually expect from the whole album, from Integrity Blues?
The album will be a good mix of everything that you might expect from Jimmy Eat World. Like, there's a part of us is, you know, guitar, heavy riff, jam, rock, and a part of us is very moody and kind of atmospheric. So there's a good mixture of all of that.
Of the strengths.
Yeah, of the strengths. But yeah, I mean, as much as you push yourself, you're still you. And you know, that hasn't changed.
Do you want to give us like an example? How does it, like, typical, if there is a typical way, I don't know, but how does a typical Jimmy Eat World song evolve? You know, is there a process?
The songs evolve in any number of ways. We've always felt there's no rules. We've been very anti-formula on how songs develop. Like, maybe I'll have an idea for something that's close to a song with some lyrics and some vocals, or maybe you know, one of us will have just like a riff, like a really short kind of idea. Or we could be in band practice and someone, you know, does something cool and one of us will be like, "I do that again. That's sort of cool." And then, you know, any number of ways material can develop into a song. At some point, it all goes through the same editing process with the band. You know, we all get together and just start digging in. I don't know how else to describe it. You know, we just work at making it the most realized version of the idea. We have, over the years, we've bought like a lot of recording equipment, and we've gotten really into like recording ourselves, and we've made a couple records at our studio. So we'll use that to like try out ideas. Like, things are usually pretty well defined by the time we get into making a record. But that's one of the things that makes this record different, is like we started at that stage and said, let's make a record out of, here's an idea. This idea is not really a song yet, but there's something about this that we feel really like could be cool. Let's make that a song. And then we just went for it.
Okay. So you haven't had like the whole song ready or like in your mind when you went to the studio?
Some songs like Integrity Blues, the song was ready. It was just how were we going to execute it. Jim had written the song before, and I think Get Right was also another thing that Jim had a pretty fleshed out idea about. And but you know, but it's kind of like you have the, even when you have like the song, you know, the bones of the song, you have to like execute it in a way that's going to be cool and interesting and something that's going to fit the record. And but yeah, I mean, the nice thing is that the collaboration and the way things came together, because we made the record rather quickly in terms of like when we decided we were going to start, you know, making an album. The writing process and the recording process happened sort of more spontaneously than they had before, just because we put our like a time limit on ourselves. And that was it was kind of cool. It was nerve-wracking too. Like, we were going in to record the record and there were like things that we didn't really have sorted out, and like, well, we'll just figure it out, you know. And there's a sort of like anxiety to that, but it's kind of like a good thing. It's like you're on edge and you're going into the studio kind of like with a healthy amount of panic, you know, so that when you're there and you do it, it's like it feels sort of in the moment and spontaneous.
So I think you just said, Jim, you have band practice, right? And that kind of brings me to my next question. What happens, because Jimmy Eat World is a band that's always around, you know, always there. Every few years they're just there and they're touring and they got a new album out. So what actually happens between recording and the tour? You know, what's I mean, there's a few years between, you know. So
Yeah.
is that? Can we just imagine Jimmy Eat World practicing, rehearsing? Or?
Yeah, we hide out in our lair, and we shred
Okay.
until it's perfect, and then we book a show.
Okay.
Yeah,
Every night.
yeah, every day. We wake up at 6 a.m. and then we run as a band,
Not true.
and all day is
And
practice.
Can we believe that? Is that true, Zach? What's
No, that's not true. I mean, it's true when we have a show coming up. Like if we have something we feel like, okay, we need to rehearse, and we'll run stuff. But it's like, there's also other kinds of when we get together, and it's like, well, hey, let's just work on new ideas. Let's just kind of come up with some stuff. And along the way, we've done a few of those. Like before we took our break, we took a break for a year. But before we took our break, we had like a few weeks where we came in and just sort of wrote a bunch of music, and some of those ideas ended up on the new album. So it's like, just things can happen in different ways.
All right, so you got two new, can we say it's actually two new singles, or it's two songs you kind of published in advance? It's Get Right and Sure and Certain, right? Also, we could, there was a free download for it.
Mm-hmm.
We could download it. What can you say about these two songs?
With Get Right and Sure and Certain, I think that showcases a little bit more of like the guitar, like the rock side of what we do. I think Get Right is a little bit more about like a heavy riff, and Sure and Certain is a little bit more of a taste of what the whole record Integrity Blues is going to bring. The dynamics of where it can go. I think I don't know. We just felt like those were maybe the best two to show people what the new record is going to be, and to remind people that we're still here.
Because I felt like Sure and Certain is like just went straight in there into the heart. Yeah, that's nice when you say that. It's like more of a foretaste for the album. Good to know. So I think with each album, your I think lyrical content and an aspect and approach also a bit evolves and changes, differs. How would you describe your lyrical approach this time? What's the content?
I think for the most part, the album Integrity Blues there's a lot of nuances to it, but I think there's each song is kind of its own thing, but maybe one of the overreaching aspects of it is just to the struggle to be at peace with yourself as a person in progress, rather than to attribute that sense of well-being to something that is like a finish line type goal off in the future.
And rather than being a rebel, maybe?
Well, I think...
it's a bit about growing up, isn't it?
Yeah, it's sort of. Yeah, it's a little bit about growing up, I guess. Because I think like rebel behavior, there's a fine line between like asserting your independence and throwing a tantrum. Like one is like, a statement of confidence, of pure confidence, and the other is like just being an asshole to try to get attention for something that is missing.
So how would you say, is there a link between age and art, age and creativity?
Maybe. I think it's just different person by person. I think when you're at a younger age, everything seems like a discovery. Everything is sort of like when you're experiencing something for the first time. It's very easy to think it's very easy to think it is the most important thing ever, and you just have to say something about it. You just have to express something about it. And maybe as you get older, and you've had a lot of those come up over time, it becomes less about the experience and more about what you learn from it. Like what's the important thing to know behind the experience.
It sounds very good. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So, how would you describe, like, what's the secret? I know you've been asked that before, but I think our listeners want to know that again. What's the secret behind, Jimmy Eat World staying together as a band for such a long time and still putting out great records?
I think just respect for each other, and keeping it fun. We all remember that this is supposed to be fun. It can be busy at times, but the rewards we get from the busyness are just so great, and we remain grateful for those things, and that makes it continue to be fun.
Speaking of fun, I just saw your tour dates, and I saw that I think you're back in Chicago on Friday or something like that. So I saw the tour dates. I was like, oh my gosh, how are they going to do this? I mean, you're going to be jet lagged, I guess. How do you do that as a band,
I think as far as the shows go, I mean, it's always a sort of buzz to play, and it's pretty easy to get excited and get up for those things, but I mean, I think you just we're used to it, you travel and you have jet lag and you figure it out. I mean, it's not the hardest thing in the world to deal with, but I think for us, the overriding thing is like, we're really excited to play the shows. So more than anything, I think that kind of powers you through any kind of like travel,
it just pushes you.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I hope the show and the tours and the shows and the tour goes well.
Yeah. Thank you very, very much.
I hope you're having a great gig tonight in Munich. We're going to see each other.
Thanks.
Anyways.
Yeah,
Right.
Awesome.
Cool. Thanks for having us. So thanks for coming out here to Rock Antenne. That was Jimmy Eat World, Jim and Zach.
Rock Antenne, der beste Rock nonstop.